Hello, everybody. Welcome to Caravan Cinema Archives. I'm Ishan Sharma. And with me, I have a very special guest, as I always say for every speaker. But we have Amol Gupte with us, who is an Indian screenwriter, actor, director, known for his film that he was the creative director of Taare Zameen Par and the screenwriter of the same film. I think the film that made my name famous, Ishan, and I am still called the Taare Zameen Par guy by my friends in a jokingly fashion. But he was also the chairperson of the Children's Film Society from 2012 to 2015, and he has made films including Pangana Lo, Stanley Ka Dabba, Hawa Hawai, Sniff, Saina, and he has acted in films like Singham Returns. We all know him from Singham Returns, and Jo Jeeta Bhai Sikandar mein he played a small role which we'll talk about in the conversation, and Bheja Fry, Stanley Ka Dabba, and which I think left me terrified from my teachers when I watched it in 2011, if I'm not wrong. So thank you so much, Amol sir, for
And
accepting.
Kamine,
And Kamine.
अरे कमीने बहुत मजा आया यार. Very simple.
Thank you so much, sir, for accepting this invitation. How are you?
I'm super cool. Sunday morning, very good. God bless.
So, sir, my first question is always your family background and your first exposure to cinema, because you have made many children films, but how was your childhood, if you have to explain?
Yes, I come from a middle class, educated Marathi family. Uh, my father was one of the earliest computer scientists, software creator for a company called International Computers Limited, which was earlier International Computers and Tabulators. It was a British firm. So ICL was the option to IBM in its time in the 60s. And my father happened to install the computers and their softwares in probably most of the universities, business houses of India and abroad as well. Mr. Sudhakar Gupte. He's a first generation computer person. My mother was a working mother. She was with the Life Insurance Corporation of India for 42 years of her life. And she balanced family life and work life with such alacrity that it made me into a gender sensitive son, first son. I have a younger sibling called Atul who lives in Hong Kong. He's a finance specialist. Having said that, the first indent of storytelling and cinema came from two great gurus, my maternal grandmother, Radhabai Popkar, and my father, Sudhakar Lakshman Gupte. Because my father took me every week, if not twice a week, to a weekend play, a Marathi play. And therefore, very early in life, I got the taste of the arts. My mother was a Sunday painter. And though she was getting up at 4:30 to cook up the first meal, go work, and then come back and cook up a second meal. So, you know how it is with mothers. They're expected to do much more than their fathers. So I thought I'll change the rules later when I became a father. But that's besides the point. The point right now is that when you travel the bylanes of Mumbai, then Girgaon, which is towards south side of Mumbai, and they had these quaint cinema theaters, Swastik and such, Imperial, and they used to play mythologicals in the mornings. And my grandmother, she had a disability. She limped on her left side of her left knee, and her ankle was bad. So she used to hold, I used to hold her finger, and we used to walk the wonderful bylanes, the smells of which I can even get today at 60, and watch films like Shri Krishna Arjun Yuddha or Sampurna Ramayan. some wonderful films, Sant Tukaram, Sant Jnaneshwar. And those were the earliest cinematic imprints in my, under five, age of five uh, boy mind. And my father replenished it with Indian classical music by Thaks, like we used to travel to Pune to Savai Gandharva for the 3-day music festival, day and night. And early valuation of whatever you say, what Bhimsen Joshi Pandit ji got in order to uh, honor his guru, Savai Gandharva. And then the Savai Gandharva Music Festival stayed on. And it actually gave a perspective to young Western Indians, that is Western India, Maharashtra especially, a renaissance of a different kind. And that renaissance has helped me a lot. Like, I'll give you a short example what I mean. So from my house were these sounds emanating were the rags and the instrumental masters. And my neighbor, I won't name him, would always say, "Kya tera ghar se aate rehta hai?" So how meaning I had the prudence and the wisdom not to take him on and express my opinion about his lack of knowledge of Indian classical music and Indian Marathi musical theatre, the Bal Gandharva tradition, which was like, in my time, it was 200 years old, 150 years old. And then the tradition of the Prabhat cinema from Kolhapur, when it traveled then to Pune. So Baburao Painter and Bhalji Pendharkar, these are all stalwarts, and was exposed to the magic of Sant Tukaram, which to me is also one of the best films ever made in the world. It won the 1935 Golden Lion at Venice, if we all know that. And what a beautiful film. That's cinema. It's like Murnau's Sunrise. It's like, Dovzhenko's Earth. So when you talk about cinema and you talk about the deep feeling of intense purity, is when you're picking up the grain of cinema. It's not meant to be a product. Unfortunately, there's a lot of space in the media for only products which are misnamed cinema. They are not cinema. They don't feature among the world's masters at all. So this is my bachpan ka matlab do guru, my grandmother and my father. And then I continued being blessed and benefited from very good gurus later. We'll talk about that.
So your first two gurus are Radhabhai Kopkarji, who was your grandmother, and Sudhakar Gupte Sahab, who was your father.
Yes.
And you said your such experience made you gender sensitive in some senses, and
because of my mother, yes, and her hard work, yes. She continues living with me. My father passed away in 2014. My grandmother passed away in 1988. But my mother, who's all of 86, she's with me, and she allows me to take care of her, which is a great privilege. Yes.
And then you got this gift from your mother, which is painting. You also paint, I think.
I have painted as any painter would for about a decade and a half. The 90s were painting. And Sanjana Kapoor that's Shashi Kapoor and Jennifer Kapoor's daughter, who started an art gallery at Prithvi. And every artist had a 1-month run. For 12 months, 12 artists. So she put me with Navjot Altaf, with Lakshman Shrestha, with Badri Narayan, all the biggies, Lalita Lajmi, Gurudatta's sister. So in this plethora of 11 other great painters, she put me there for a 1-month show twice. Once in 1995, once in 1998. I owe my presence as a painter to her discerning eye And I kept asking her. I just met her last week. I went for Makarand Deshpande's play. And I kept asking her, okay, why, how did you manage to, you know, I'm not politically aligned to critics and, art critics. And, I'm not in that zone, that sector, that mafia. And yet, how could you just give me a 1 month show, a 3 week show it is? Then 1 week they use for unsettling and settling the new artist. But on my one side, I had Lakshman Shrestha. On one side, I had Navjot Altaf. There was Lalita Lajmi. There was very big painters there. In fact, Jitesh Kalat and all began making a mark in those times, in the 90s. You know. So the answer to that was that she had a curator, Mr. Tilak, who was a free soul, who has spent maybe a part of his life on the beaches of India, just living off the sand and the water. But there were people who understood that something which I'm doing seems to be speaking, and it requires space. So I'm eternally grateful to Sanjana and Tilak Sahab, the late Tilak Sahab, for giving me that wonderful privilege of showing a one-man work, which I used to collect for over 3 years and 4 years. I never took a date and painted for it, for an opening. I finished my work because I did pen and ink, which is 0.1, and it took me about 3 months for each drawing to complete on an imperial size white TK paper with black ink. So I'm surprised that I was pulled out of that hole, because I am a mole, as you know, and I had to be literally, and I'm blind as well. So the mole describes me fine. So I don't know how they pulled me out of my burrow and put me out there, and I made a living of that. I was not running a family then, I was not married, but it was sustainable for me. फाइनली तो क्या 2 रोटी खाना है ना, सोने का बिस्किट पचाने वाला अभी तक मुझे मिला नहीं है. कमा तो सकते हो, कमा तो सकते हो.
Do you do abstracts or do you sketch?
I do etchings, of course no longer because I'm nearly blind now. I have a macula in my eye, and I have floaters and several parallax errors and things. So about 14 years ago, my doctor told me, please don't sit behind a steering wheel. It'll be hazardous for you as well as other people on the road. So since then, I have understood that I cannot exercise that same expression, which was in such detail, of 0.1 rapidograph pen on white paper. I abandoned that art form because of bad eyes. But yes, it was so fruitful because it gave me a sense of employment. So I knew, okay, for 3 months, if I work on an imperial size paper, then nobody's going to ask me, are you doing anything about your life? I said, no, I'm working. I'm building a series. So those series, it began with a different thing. It was called India Item. It was huge amount of satirical work, like this skyline cityscape, and then I write underneath, how do I say it? You have an acute Lokhandwala complex. These kind of things, So it was a series of about 200 drawings in small form, in A4 size paper. And I had bound it, and I thought I'm smart, that I'm going to beat. I was an actor then, of course, which was how I began. That we'll come to later, but this package of 150, 200 drawings, I thought was a very novel way of showing my portfolio as an actor, because it showed my soul rather than my shitty face, But unfortunately, people took it the other way. They said, अच्छे thoughts हैं. So Kundan Shah said, come and sit and write with me. Saeed Mirza said, come and sit and write with me. You know. So मेरा वो plan flop हो गया actually. I thought that somebody will see my, anguish, pained soul, and give me the role of my life. But they gave me the role of a writer in their lives. So ऐसा सब था.
And when was that inciting incident in your life? Because cinema की बात हो तो cinema में कि हमने सीखा term in our previous conversations called the inciting incident. So when was that inciting incident that made you an actor or a filmmaker?
I've been an actor through school. Actually, I've been an elocutionist and debater and Bonvita quiz contest team member of the school and school captain in my junior years. And there were people who gave me that encouragement. So Asha Kapoor, who was my headmistress in Holy Family High School in my primary school, she kind of pulled me out of the ranks and made me the school captain of the primary school. But along with that, the confidence that I got to express myself. So even if it was a silly poem, age 8, standard 3, called My Dog, it still won, the best speaker of the day over and above the 9th and 10th standard uh, participants. It really hurt them very badly. Third standard ka bacha aake hamesha ye kaise best elocutionist and in the plays also, in the school plays, the one act plays, and we used to get coaches or mentors from outside for just doing a one act play. It's the system in most schools, I think, where you get a outside talent who can hone your students into doing a acting in a one act play. The regular big plays and Nicodemus and A Day of Atonement and Bear's Paw. I'm talking about the 60s and early 70s. So when such a thing happens, then you've got oodles of confidence as an actor. So I was always acting, always debating, and through school, I'm saying. And once I finished my 10th standard, and along with that, 8th, 9th, and 10th, I got what is called the Trimurti of Gurus. So I had R.S. Nikum, who I paid a tribute in Taare Zameen Par, my art teacher. And second person was Thomas J. Parmar, who passed away, who was my English literature teacher and was also my bread and biscuit making teacher. So nice combination, actually. Culinary skills and literature. And my third teacher, who I'd like to talk about, is Namvar Singh, my Hindi master. Now, Namvar Singh, when I first encountered him, what are you looking down there? लिख रहे हैं. अरे प्रभु.
Making notes of your statements.
नहीं. तो ये जो नामवर सिंह जो है, not the other Namvar Singh from Delhi, the poet, but this also as good a poet, Namvar Singh, who's I think a dear friend of Harivansh Rai Bachchan ji.
Yeah.
And he was our teacher in Hansraj Morarji Public School. So his first encounter with us in the 8th standard was he came in, it was a ground floor classroom, and he showed us the Hindi 8th standard textbook, the Bal Bharati, and he threw it out of the window. That was a giant gesture. It was an actor's gesture. He just threw the book out, looked into our eyes, and it was a very small class. Thankfully, we had a very small class in Hansraj. In Holy Family, there were 50 of us to a classroom. Here, there were 20, 22 of us. And he looked into our eyes and he said, जिंदगी एक खुशी का बुलबुला है, गम का सागर है, और गौतम ने महल छोड़ दी. And then he left us to it, okay, what we think about it and all that. And that was the beginning. And that was his own kafia. It was his words. Imagine a poet who is your Hindi teacher. Otherwise, I began writing in Hindi because of Namar Singh. My attraction जो खींच थी हिंदी की तरफ, वो मेरे सहपाठी, उनको इतनी हिंदी नहीं आती थी. उन्होंने उतना ही बाल भारती किया जितना मार्क्स स्कोर करके आप एग्जाम जीत सकते हो, लेकिन लैंग्वेज को जीतना अलग बात है. So Thomas J. Parmar for English literature, who introduced us to D.H. Lawrence and the masters, the Byrons and the Keats and the Shelleys. I took all this very seriously. And then the epitome of it was R.S. Nikum, Ram Shankar Nikum sir. Now, R.S. Nikum sir was the art teacher of Hansraj Morarji Public School. I've never seen an art department like that. So every class went to the art department. Behind the classroom was a huge art laboratory. So we made batiks, we did whittling, we did practically everything that you have to learn as an artist in school for 3 years. So when I graduated, I finished my school and I got my results, and I went to touch Nikum sirs and Parmar sirs and Namvar sirs feet. So when I went to Nikum sir, I said, now uh, because I'm so attached to the arts, I'm going to JJ School of Fine Arts to do 5 years, 4 years of bachelor's in fine arts. He said, why are you going, Gupte? You learnt for the last 3 years. See, this is school education actually. Normally you say school of art, no? Because it should be done in school. When other schools, and they were getting stressed because children should not be doing art when they are in their 9th and 10th standard, because they should be goddamn getting ready for IIT and and medicine and all that. In my time, I'm saying, yeah, this was the last beach. This Hansraj Morarji Public School was, created by Kanayalal Munshi in 1947, and he called all his friends who were English masters at Cambridge and here and there, and said, "Come, let's start an Indian school, and you come and teach the children. It's a residential school also." So I was a non-residential person. I was a day boarder there. But having said that, this kind of wisdom, which was so holistic, our math teacher, the late Professor T.D. Naik, he was a teacher in the US when he came and he started teaching math to school students. And the only thing he used to say is, please don't disturb the class. So there was no present, absent, register, nothing. If you want to leave the classroom, don't disturb us, just quietly leave the classroom. You take a football from the gym, go. We had huge grounds, in Mumbai. To have grounds like that is hyper luxury. Even now, it has lovely ground. Hansraj Morarji Public School, HMPS. So there, I mean, imagine such a big-hearted teacher telling you, don't disturb children who love algebra. So quietly leave. Don't disturb the class. Go home if you want. Go to the library. Go to the field, but do not disturb the class, because in my time there was no pratha, at least for that period, of marking somebody present or absent, or it was your own will that brought you close to education. That is one thing I carry with me, and have been carrying it for 45 years of my life. That having said that, I would put it at this Trimurti, this Trinity, Parmar sir and Namvar sir and Nikum sir. Nikum sir ko to khair, I paid a tribute, a visual tribute, by calling Amir Ram Shankar Nikum as an art teacher. But the Hindi came from Namvar sir. I write songs, I write in Hindi, and I'm very proud that I have carried my teacher's legacy into the world. And Parmar sir, unfortunately, now all three of them, the last two bastions, passed away this year in 2022. Both were deeply Alzheimer, and but I used to go every Teachers' Day, 5th September. And Parmar sir, the English literature teacher who also taught us bread and biscuit making, he was born on 5th September. So the only occasion, I guess, in the world where you go to meet the birthday boy and he has baked a cake for you. That was Thomas J. Parmar. What a fabulous man. So I live, of course, in the shadows of the past because that is very assuring that good can be done. And the great teachers of the past have given us a fair idea about what a Gurukul would have been in its prime, where it was not connected with money. You know, even महाराजा का बेटा भी हो तो चुपचाप 7 साल की उम्र में 7 ईयर की उम्र में जनेऊ पहन के फॉरेस्ट जाओ, कुटिया में रहो, गुरु की सेवा करो, उस सेवा से जो प्राप्त होता है वो मेवा है. दैट्स योर एजुकेशन. तो ये कहीं हम भूल गए हैं. अभी क्लब्स हो गए हैं, महंगे एजुकेशन हो गए हैं, तो लोगों को ये लगता है कि ज्यादा पैसा देंगे तो ज्यादा अक्ल आएगी, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. पर ये सच नहीं है. तो इट कम्स फ्रॉम द वैल्यू सिस्टम ऑफ अ टीचर. छोटी सी बात बताऊंगा. एक जॉनसन सर हुआ करते थे, हम लोग 3rd स्टैंडर्ड में थे, होली फैमिली में. वो जॉनसन सर जो थे वो बहुत ही मतलब his skin tone was black and his hair was nice and brilliant, and जैसे आपके बाल हैं अभी राइट नाउ, पर वो एल्विस प्रेस्ली की तरह बालों को सराहते थे. और सफेद रंग का टाइट फुल शर्ट टक्ड इनटू अ ब्लैक पैंट, जो तंग पैंट बोलते थे तभी, यू नो, लाइक अ सिगरेट पैंट्स, मतलब हगिंग योर. अभी वापस वो फैशन आ चुकी है. तो वो पहन के और पॉइंटेड शूज पहन के वर्ग में आते थे टू टीच अरिथमेटिक. एंड एक कहानी जो उनकी है कि हफ्ते में एक बार वो कहेंगे कि सब खिड़की दरवाजे बंद कर दो, एंड देन ही विल टेल यू वन सर्जियो लियोनी फिल्म की कहानी, गुड द बैड द अगली, फॉर अ फ्यू डॉलर्स मोर. तो पूरा इनेक्ट करेंगे कि क्लिंट ईस्टवुड किस तरह से गन निकालता है फ्रॉम हिज हिप, कैसे फायर करता है. So it became, for me, it's a memory as if it happened yesterday. ये जो जॉनसन सर हैं, जिनको मतलब मैं बेतहाशा चाहता हूँ, पर वो चल बसे बेचारे. Having said that, जॉनसन सर ने 2 चीजें की. एक तो अपना इनैक्टमेंट दिखा के हमको आकर्षित किया, क्योंकि दैट इज अट्रैक्शन, दैट्स फेटल अट्रैक्शन. तो आज अगर आप वो सर्जियो लियोन की कहानी सुना रहे हैं लाइक अ फिल्म ऑन स्टेज, तो कल वो आपको अरिथमेटिक भी उसी हुनर के साथ ले आएंगे. बचपन की बात है. और साथ में इतना बड़ा दिल था. वैसे ही यूज्ड टू लिव इन अ स्लम नियर द स्कूल, काजुवाड़ी slum, but he had the heart of gold, because if we are talking about 1969 1970, that was the first time Cadbury's brought in the eclair. अपने हम लोग एक्लेयर खाते हैं ना, कैडबरीज एक्लेयर, तो वो तब शुरू हुई. जब शुरू हुई इतनी महंगी थी, इट वाज 35 नया पैसे फॉर एन एक्लेयर, जबकि 2 पैसे में छोटा टिकट मिलता था बस के लिए, 5 पैसे में फुल ग्रोन इंसान को टिकट मिलता था स्टेशन जाने के लिए. 6 स्टॉप्स 7 स्टॉप्स. इमेजिन, इट वाज सच अ चीप टाइम. उस चीप टाइम में 35 पैसे की एक एक्लेयर आती थी. हमेशा अपनी जेब में रखते थे. आई डोंट नो व्हाट ही सैक्रिफाइस टू कीप हिज पॉकेट फिल्ड विद एक्लेयर्स. फॉर एनी चाइल्ड हु गेव अ परफॉर्मेंस above 15 marks in a 20 mark sheet, he had an eclair for that child. That eclair, it's his heart. So I'm favored. I'm really favored that I have the blessings of my elders. I am satisfied with life. You can go to your next question.
Yeah. I also had a teacher, because we were talking of teacher. I had a teacher called Geeta Asthana. She passed away 3 years ago, I think. She was in South Africa at that time. But she used to do. I think she was the most creative teacher that I have ever had in my life. She was my class first teacher. What she used to do is she used to make us play musical chairs at the end of the day. Whoever used to win, she used to give her something like eclairs. At that time, it was 2 rupees. I think 1 rupees for an eclair. But yeah, I think good teachers are a rarity now in our education system. It's very saddening, but I think we need good teachers.
Yeah. Just drinking some water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, so you mentioned these three teachers, and
Not just three. I mean, imagine these three are later Trinity. But
yeah,
from Asha Kapoor to Johnson, Sir, I mean, these are the people who rallied
yeah,
for the child. You know, to date, Asha Kapoor and I, we just had a conversation on Guru Purnima Day. This is just a week ago.
yeah,
And she maintains that, the human brain cannot accommodate calculation and literature together. So look what the child is looking out for. And you want to teach algebra to the child who is in love with the arts, and you're dissuading the child from following the arts. Unfortunately, I think now we are in a phase, correct me if I'm wrong, uh, ninth and 10th standard, the subject of art has been stopped. In my time, we had up to the 10th standard, we had art up to our SSC. It has stopped, which means it is telling you that from 8th onwards, you just now please change your life systems.
yeah,
I'll give you one example of my 10th standard. You know what's 10th standard, no?
yeah,
An IITian should know better. Person connected with these sciences should know better.
yeah,
In my time also, it was quite aggressive, not as aggressive. So there was Agrawal classes in Bombay, I'm saying. Uh, so for IIT or for getting into the best colleges, you started your classes at 8th standard, 9th standard level. And most of the uh, big vernacular schools, they in fact had a segregation system too, where, from like right from early, from primary, it was like A, tukdi tukdi b, tukdi k, tukdi d, which means it went right up to I, 9 divisions, 10 divisions of 40, 40, 50, 50 children each. And the divisions were made according to the intellectual, this kind of segregation. So
hmm,
ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी भी competition हुआ है, you know, वो कोटा फैक्ट्री तब नहीं था, but कोटा फैक्ट्री था in a different form, you know. In such a time, when I went from 9th to 10th standard, you would imagine that I'll have to, because I was a topper. I was not some, backbencher who had red marks according to, you know, not being able to perform. I was a good performer. Technically, I should have joined those classes in wanting to, get more merit. So it was a 60-day vacation between 9th and 10th. Yeah, summer vacation. What do you think I did in those 60 days?
did you
Wild guess.
study for the
On,
IIT?
on the contrary,
Hmm.
I saw 72 films in 60 days with my neighbor Ramesh Patel. He was also a film aficionado. So every day, sometimes 2 films, sometimes 3 films. And if a Sunday I don't see a film, I compensate on the Monday. But 72 films in those days. I remember I used to see all Friday matinee releases. In that week, that month, I think Rajesh Khanna's Chaila Babu released, Shalimar with Dharmendra, made by, I think, some Krishna Shah from Hollywood, uh, with Rex Harrison and some couple of Hollywood actors released. I'm talking about uh, circa 1976-77 ka summer. Then 77-78 would be SSC year, if your prime year of education, to decide where you're going to go. And in that year, my parents had the guts. My parents was really gutsy people. I mean, they accepted me with my 72 films in 60 days when I'm heading towards SSC, when all other compatriots, which is their peers' children, are going to Agrawal class and Pinge's class and this class and that class and getting ready to score the 90s in their 10th. My parents didn't flutter an eyelash. ठीक है मजा कर रहा है मजा है कौन सा फिल्म देखा आज today I saw this all kinds of films because that the education of those times is not the same as now. The cinema, commercial cinema of that time had the uh, how to what is the word to use, it had the wisdom to have reruns every morning. So today you're watching some rubbish of Rajesh Khanna, Chaila Babu, for instance. A horrible film. But in the morning, you're watching Singham of Raj Kapoor, or you're watching Pyasa of Gurudutt. It is available in the theater in celluloid form. Of course, the print will be a little bad, it'll be scratchy. They might break and then they'll rejoin it, and then suddenly there's everybody shouting in the theater, hey, Gaya. Then again, वो फिर शुरू करेगा screening. But those were romantic times because they allowed you an entry. Otherwise, how would I have fallen in love with Gurudutt and Vijayanand? They're not from my time. I must have been a baby when Guide released in the theaters. Or Gurudutt's film was, I was not even born for Pyasa. But they came back to us with that same force as reruns. So what happened is, it allowed you a fresh love for masterpieces. Bimal Roy. Where would we have seen Do Biga Zameen otherwise? V. Shantaram, Do Aankhein Barahat. Where would we see? The entire Prabhat festival, which my father took me to when I was not even 7. So watching Sant Tukaram, watching Duniya Na Mane, watching social pieces, Shantaram was a great Renaissance filmmaker. So V. Shantaram and Bhalji Pendharkar, Baburao Pendharkar, I mean, it's a Baburao painter, their father. He was like the progenitor of the Prabhats, of the Prabhat talent. And third generation talent was Dilip Kumar, Devanand, Gurudutt. Gurudutt interned in Prabhat Studios, Pune, under all these masters, Gajanan, Jagirdar, all the big stalwarts of that time. So having said that, there was a chance of passing the baton. अब के ज़माने में ऐसा हो रहा है कि क्योंकि that Vandana is not there, that sadhana might be there, but Vandana is not there. फर्क होता है साधना और वंदना में. Because मेरे पिताजी ने अगर, if he took me to say Sangeet Saubhadra, or he took me to any of these Marathi musical plays, I submitted myself to my father's knowledge. So when I'm watching it with awe. So when I'm watching Bhimsen sing, or Kumar Gandharvji sing live, or Ahmad Jah Tirakwa play tabla, or the masters, meaning all the big masters, Amir Khan Saab and his buttery voice. I mean, कौन है यार? तो क्यों लगन लगी? Because I believed in what my father was giving me. I was not rubbishing it. I was not telling my dad, hey, dad, just cool it, huh? Don't, I know, but like your cake. ये जो है is cutting your own 2 feet, because it's a graduation process. If you don't start at first standard, you will never graduate in your 15th year. It requires history. It requires all the semantics of cinema. Meaning, if I was sitting in my father's house, and he's telling me, ये जो गा रहे हैं ना, in Marathi he'll tell me, Amol Habak, हा केसी डे है, हा मन्ना डेचा बाप है आणि आंधळा आहे, he is blind. And where do I see him? I see him in P.C. Barua's Devdas, with Kundan Lal Sehgal, of course, as the superstar at the center of the narrative. So if my father wouldn't have told me this is Casey Day, or this is Moti Lal, or this is Gope, what a comedian, just check him out. Or this is Nalini Jayawant, she is related to you in a way, just like Nutan and Tanuja. In a longer stream, we are related. So there's a certain amount of pride, that you say, oh, wow, this is legacy. So from that legacy, you can build a new syntax. You need not be irreverent to what happened in the past, because then you're cutting your own feet, which is what I was telling you. It's important to experience the value system of Kundanlal Sehgal to later understand Dilip Kumar, to later understand Amitabh Bachchan and Rajesh Khanna, and so on and so forth, right up to the present, the current Irfan Khan, maybe. So having said that, you can't jump the gun. You can't say, हाँ वो सब ठीक है, लेकिन मेरे को तो टॉरेंट है ना, मेरे को क्या प्रॉब्लम है? अरे टॉरेंट है, लेकिन तेरे को अटेंशन है क्या? टॉरेंट तुमको अटेंशन दिलवाएगा क्या? Do you have the patience to view art? I mean, I would imagine some of my unlettered friends, if I would have taken them for a screening of Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker or Mirror or whichever of Tarkovsky, तो पहले 10 मिनट में भाग जाएंगे वो लोग यार, बोले क्या है यार, ये क्या पका रहे हो क्या हम लोग को, हटाओ हटाओ यार, ये सब ये हम लोग के लिए नहीं है, बेकार है। तो जिस सिनेमा सेज को मैं पूजता हूँ, आई वर्शिप टार्कोव्स्की, वो मतलब उसको तो रास्ते पे फेंक देंगे ये लोग, तो किसका फॉल्ट है? तो आई यूज वन फ्रेज often in whatever master classes I do, कि भाई, there was a girl who was with us in our house as a help, but more like a sister. And there was a boy who came from my aunt's house in Kolhapur. His name was Vasant. And he came and she was, looking at him while he conjectured that Kolhapur airport is the largest in the world. So she didn't answer him. She didn't refute him. She looked at him with awe in her eyes, कि कितना बड़ा बेवकूफ है, and just said, "Bar," in Marathi. Malacha. And that was the end of the topic. So I use this phrase often, कि Kolhapur airport is not the biggest airport in the world. And the faster you know, I think you're on mute, are you?
Yeah, I'm on mute.
Yeah. So faster you understand that you know very little, the more you will be able to absorb. But know it all को कौन समझा सकता है यार, कि भाई कोल्हापुर एयरपोर्ट दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा एयरपोर्ट नहीं है। तो ये सीखा मैंने from simple people.
And then you said after your schooling, after SSC and everything, you went to FTII, Film and Television Institute of India. How was that experience? Who were your classmates, batchmates?
I'm not a student from FTI. From school, when my teacher told me, Nikum sir said, okay, don't join an art school. Your art education is over. Gupte, एक नया subject सीखो कुछ. So I went towards commerce. I don't know why. Because science, though, I definitely didn't want to. So I went to a premier commerce college in Mumbai called Narsi Monji Mahavidyalaya, NM, Narsi Monji College of Commerce and Economics. It was called the Chartered Accountant Factory. So because like how Doctor Factory from Ruparel या तो इस तरह से वहां गया, लेकिन वहां अलग कमरे में चला गया, because I was the speakers club का secretary there, doing debates and elocution, getting more accolades for my college now after school. और उधर मिस्टेक से एक कमरे में चला गया, which was the rehearsal room. तो वो rehearsal room था where theatre was happening. And my friend Sudhanshu Hukku, I owe it to him. Sudhanshu Hukku was India #1 badminton player in 1979, sub-juniors champion. He was also captain of the combined universities. And he also went to IIT Powai to get his training from Pramanik sir, who was his coach, badminton coach or national coach. And this badminton champion who came into my college because of his brownie points as a champion sports person, who was extremely well read in terms of theatre, cinema in his time when he was barely 18. And he took me into this rehearsal room and I said, yeah, that director who I see in the canteen is such an obnoxious man. He's abusive and he's all the time loud and shouting and insulting kind of person. I cannot bear to do theatre with such a person. He says, हमको उससे शादी थोड़ी करनी है, हमको तो नाटक करना है. So he forced me into an audition, and I kind of just jumped into the heart of this obnoxious man. Later, next minute, I understood that he was the enfant terrible of Bombay stage, the great Mahendra Joshi, who adapted everything from Beckett to Stoppard to Peter Shaffer. Equus he did as Ekshaf and Tokhar. And he brought in the talent, Mahendra Joshi, brought in Paresh Rawal. That was his classmate. And also another talent called Niranjan Thade, who was his classmate in college, in NM. They are all from Narsi Monji, my college, the alma mater. So this man, Mahendra Joshi, single-handedly, using college students, created some of the most stunning experimental theatre of Mumbai that time. And where did we show? We showed at Prithvi Theatre. It had just opened in 1978. It was created by Jennifer Kendall Kapoor, Sanjana's mother and Shashi Kapoor's wife, and Ved Sagan, the maverick architect, who created such an intimate space to perform that we, as a theatre group, coming from Narsi Monji and Mithibai College, and helmed by Mahendra Joshi, called Avantar, we did some 35, 40 one-act plays, everything Ionesco. So at 19, you have processed the world's most intellectual writers, from Painter to everybody. I mean, Vijay Tendulkar, who I have always then fallen in love with and worship him like no other writer in India. So having seen this so early in my life and being the apple of Mahendra Joshi's eye, so I was Ashwathama, I was Albert, I was Frank. These are all protagonists of Stoppard and Sheffer and such. So having done all this, at 19, I was like, यार तू क्या बात करेगा, मैं बात करता हूँ. That kind of arrogance of being a centerpiece on stage is very different. It can fill up your ego more than a film star, because you're looking into the eyes of your audience and you're emoting and you're doing the goddamn central part of the play. That confidence was different. So taking this confidence, and I named Mahendra Ji and his classmate Niranjan Thade, who after finishing his graduation, Joshi continued doing theatre in NM, Mithivai. Thade went to FTI to graduate in direction and cinematography. So his diploma film was called Chakkar Chandu Ka Chameli Wala. So 1981 production, 1982 release. It won the Best Experimental Film National Award. And that kind of, at age 19, when things like that happen to you say, okay, these are the gates of heaven, FTI. So instead of struggling in Bombay as some stupid theatre actor, wanting to break into Hindi cinema, can you see this? This is my cat's tail. She's already come here. She's wondering what am I bullshitting. That's my pleasure. Hi. Say hi to these people. That's Ghost. That's my ghost. Yeah. So I said, yaar, ye to jagah hai. Because as I entered the first day, 1981, in some summer of it, and Taare said, listen, I'm assisting somebody on camera. There is a film going on in the afternoon in the main theater. And I sat and I was watching Francois Truffaut's 800 Blows. That was the first film I saw on FTI campus. I acted in Thade's film. It won the National Award. But after that, I did 110 films. For 12 years, I just stayed on campus. Out of 12 years, 8 years, I was actually, if you count man days, 8 years I was on campus. Not as a student. Later, I graduated to even teaching there or doing artist in residence with Saeed Mirza in 1989. So I'm not a student from there. But I grew like a tree there. And my place of worship was the main theater, the Temple of Cinema, where they showed 3 to 4 masterpieces a day. Where else will you get to see this? These are not torrent times. Prabhat Chitramandal will have 1 film a week. Bombay Film Circle will have 1 film a week. Allianz will have 1 film a week. And, and the German embassy will have 1 film a week. That's it. 4 films a week. That's all. Where you're getting to see 3 masterpieces a day. कौन जाएगा निकलेगा बाहर? दाल रोटी तो चल गई. It was not so difficult because if I was doing somebody's film, he was giving me lunch, and plus I was getting 30 rupees a day as actor's payment. The pink voucher which I had to sign. For me, it was a golden voucher because it allowed me to stay on campus. I must have done not less than 1,000 dubbings, of other people's films, other characters. बोले यार वो actor नहीं आ पा रहा है वहां से दिल्ली से, ऐसे चल ना करता हूँ. उधर का 30 रुपया, इधर का 30 रुपया. करते करते 12 साल गुजर गए भैया. 93.
All uncredited.
Why uncredited? Of course credited.
Because on IMDb, the first...
No, ये सब वो नहीं. Student films है ना. Yeah. Like one film, Raju and I are together, Rajkumar Hirani and me. It's called Abhisarika. It's on YouTube. वो फनी सुंदर की डिप्लोमा है. We were playing co-actors in that film. बहुत सारी फिल्में हैं. There are so many films I've done there.
And what are the most beautiful films that you watched while you stay at the game? You said 3 films a day.
What were the most
beautiful?
I mean, everything is a masterpiece. I mean, and there is no hurry because see, it's not a 3-year course that I'm doing. That after 3 years, the pressure is on me to make a film. I was just growing like a banyan tree. Nobody was asking me, "अरे अभी बाहर जाके करेगा क्या?" Nobody was. I was painting that. I had जिसके भी कमरे में था मेरा अपना वो इंपीरियल साइज पेपर लगा रहता था, अपना ड्राइंग चालू रहता था. फिल्में देखो, कीप ड्राइंग एंड एब्सॉर्ब एंड एक्टिंग करो. बिकॉज टुडे यू विल नो कि चलो 50 के लेंस में इतना एक्सप्रेशन किया तो शाम को रश देख लो. You can go and check your own performances, how subtle, how sharp, how soft, what to do with the lens as an actor. वो तुमको यहाँ कौन सिखाएगा? यहाँ तो मतलब अलग भेड़ चाल थी ना. तो यहाँ तो कुछ फोटो सेट बनाने पड़ेंगे, फिर वो पता नहीं उस टाइम के कमर्शियल फिल्म मेकर्स के पास जाना पड़ेगा कि सर आई एम एन एक्टर. ये फर्स्ट लाइन, सर बेसिकली आई एम एन एक्टर, मुझे रोल चाहिए. ये सब कास्टिंग डायरेक्टर्स नहीं थे तभी, कोई नहीं था. देयर वाज नो वैल्यू फॉर व्हाट you were doing except for the stupid photo set, so you portfolio, whatever you call it now. So ये सब नहीं करना था मुझे यार. I said acting ही करनी है ना, तो do it in a supreme place, do it with the Mitchell cameras, do it with the Mitchell blimp is such a Ganpati, it's such a beautiful camera. उसकी dialogue exercises the Mitchell used to be working, and that romance of Studio 1 and 2, you're standing on the same floor where Sant Tukaram flew away to Vaikunt. You know, in 1934-33, violin production, Sant Tukaram, the film. Vishnupan Pagnis, who played Tukaram. So I'm saying there's legacy attached to that place. You know, they used to say, यार ये सब दामले फतेलाल सबके भूत घूमते हैं इधर. When you're walking from the wisdom tree to the boys hostel, just beware. तो कहीं झपट लिया तो बैठ जाएगा, और कहीं झपट लिया क्या तो हर बच्चे को झपटता है वो भूत. वो विक्रम वेताल की कहानी है. जिसने वहां का पानी पिया उसके सर पे वो भूत आरूढ़ हो गया. Mount, it has mounted your neck and it's going to sit there till you die. So that is the FTI Prabhat Chitra.
Yeah.
It's a different degree.
Was that the same wisdom tree jiske niche, people used to sit together, discuss cinema and kind of talk about?
There is only one wisdom tree, yes.
Yeah.
Wisdom tree के पीछे Studio 1, wisdom tree के left में music room को लग के थिएटर, मेन थिएटर के सामने चाय की दुकान. हो गया ना सब आयोजन, एक लाइफ का आयोजन वहीं पे हो गया. So in a radius of not 20 meters radius, it's heaven.
Yeah.
वहीं पे उस विजडम ट्री से ही तो वो भूत बैठते हैं तुम्हारे सर पे. तो छोड़ेंगे नहीं, आज तक नहीं छोड़ा.
So you never went to film school, but you went to cinema.
I had, yeah, absolutely. And finally, you ask any film student at FTI कि actually तुम्हारा टीचर कौन है, तो वो बोलेगा मेरा टीचर तो मेन थिएटर में बैठता है, जब फेलिनी शुरू होता है वो मेरा टीचर है. I have conversations with Fellini, and you kept asking me ना कि what are these masters, who did you see? I mean, who did I not see? Because 8 साल, if you 365 days into 8 years अगर करते हो मैथ, तो लगभग 30 बार स्टॉलकर हो गया, 20 बार मिरर हो गया, किज़लाउस्की हो गया, टार्कोव्स्की हो गया, पोलांस्की हो गया, सब हो गया. नाइफ इन द वाटर हो गया, ओजू हो गया, ओशिमा हो गया, कुरोसावा हो गया, सब कुछ. मतलब टचिंग द लोअर डेप्थ्स एंड द बिग हाइज, सब कुछ तो सामने. And it used to unfold each time you saw Stalker. It was a different experience. So imagine how artistically it was coded by Andrei Tarkovsky that रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते. It's like, watching a great master build a rag. तो ऐसा बोला, चल ना भाई, विलंबित बहुत ज्यादा चल रहा है, चलो अभी ध्रुव में आ जाओ. क्यों भाई, सबर कर. और वो मजा है. तो इसीलिए मैं तो बाहर दुनिया का आदमी नहीं हूँ. मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता कौन मेरे बारे में क्या सोचता है, बिकॉज मुझे अपने आप में एक अलग तरह का सुकून है, शांति है. क्योंकि तुमको मालूम है ना तुम क्या कर रहे हो. तुमको हमेशा वैलिडेशन और टेस्टिमनी की क्यों जरूरत पड़ती है बाहर से. भाई ये कान वाले ने तुमको लिया नहीं, या वो उस उधर का फेस्टिवल डायरेक्टर चेंज हो गया तो आप रूठ के बैठ गए, ये हो गया, फिर वो हो गया. बोलो वेनिस में आजकल ये चल रहा है. मतलब वो भी एक डिफरेंट किस्म का माफिया ही हो गया ना फिर. तो मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि ट्रू आर्टिस्ट्री इज आइसोलेटेड और सेग्रीगेटेड एंड इट वैक्यूम में पनपता है. ऐसा नहीं. वैक्यूम में कुछ भी नहीं पनपता. You require free air for expression, but to be determined by somebody else sitting somewhere and saying no, this is in and that is out. So flavor of the month, ये मैंने बहुत पहले नकारा है when I was a painter, and after I was successfully opening 2 shows in Prithvi, the art dealers came to me, the gallerists came to me, because they said अरे ये तो सोने की मुर्गी है, इसके तो पेंटिंग्स बिकते हैं. So I didn't join that. I said मैं पेंटिंग ही बंद कर दूंगा, because ये तो 4 लोग, 2 क्रिटिक्स और 2 गैलरिस्ट ये डिटरमिन करेंगे कि एम एफ हुसैन कौन होगा। ये मुझे मंजूर नहीं है। ये बहुत ही स्मॉल कॉटेरी है जो डिसाइड करती है कि दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा कौन, यू नो, चाहे पिकासो हो या जो भी। इसीलिए मैं आई लिव इन द पास्ट। तो मेरे लिए अगर मास्टर्स हैं तो अनडिस्कवर्ड आदमी जैसे विंसेंट वैन गो, अनडिस्कवर्ड आदमी जैसे फ्योदोर दोस्तोयेव्स्की या ऑनोरे द बाल्जैक, यू नो, डिस्कवर्ड येट डिरेटेड विजय तेंदुलकर, यू नो। तो उनको अपना फुल शाइन कभी नहीं मिला बिकॉज दे वो वॉइसेस। तो उन्होंने अपना जितना है जो है जाहिर कर दिया, एक्सप्रेस कर दिया। अब उनको क्या पड़ी है, पोस्टेरिटी है नहीं है, कौन देखने आने वाला है कि मरने के बाद कौन किसके बारे में पढ़ेगा यार। तुमको पता चलेगा जाने के बाद यहाँ से कि क्या होने वाला है। यार यार मैंने इतने किताबें छोड़ दी हैं, इतना सिनेमा छोड़ा है, लोग आरती उतारेंगे मेरी। अरे लेकिन तू तो नहीं होगा ना तब, तो क्या मजा है। गुरुदत्त ने अगर प्यासा बनाई और कागज के फूल बनाई, और ऋत्विक घटक ने अगर मेघेडा का तारा बनाई, और तुकाराम को तो बोल चुका हूं मैं, पाथेर पांचाली की बात करेंगे, कितने सारे जो जितने अपने यहाँ के सॉलिड मास्टर्स हैं, वो ये सोच के निकले थे क्या तब कि यार ये वेनिस में मैं एंटर कर दूंगा, फिर ये इधर से ये हो जाएगा, फिर वो अपना ये वैसे करेंगे वैसे करेंगे। तो ये जो खतरनाक मास्टर्स हैं जो हमारे, जिन्होंने कभी किसी मतलब कोई भरोसा नहीं किया ये इसके मूल्यांकन का, वैल्यूएशन का, बोला नहीं सेल्फ वैल्यूएशन इज बेस्ट। मुझे दुख हो रहा है, आज मैंने कान काट दिया, कल मैं एक बुलेट डाल दूंगा मेरे सर में। मुझे मालूम भी नहीं है कि मेरी एक पेंटिंग बिकी नहीं है और मेरा भाई थियो जमा कर रहा है। तो जब तो उनको स्टारी स्टारी नाइट्स देखो या सनफ्लावर्स देखो या उनका कमरा देखो, सेल्फ ड्रॉन, मतलब what he thinks, what is Van Gogh thinking? It makes you speechless. तो इतना वोकैबुलरी डेवलप ही नहीं हुआ है। जो अंदर दिल में तुमको क्या फील होता है वो कैसे बताओगे? What will you speak about? What will you tell? You are limited by your language. तो अंदर के जो तार बज रहे हैं, उनको बजने देना चाहिए ना यार। बाकी फिक्र क्या करना है, बाहर क्या हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है। भाई तुम और तुम्हारा ऊपर वाला अगर कॉन्जॉइंड है, अगर रात को नींद अच्छी आती है, आपने किसी का पॉकेट नहीं मारा, किसी के साथ गलत नहीं किया, दैट्स आर्ट, दैट्स आर्ट माय फ्रेंड। तो आई डोंट रियली रियली स्ट्रेस अबाउट कि कौन किधर तुमको कितने कौन से तराजू में तोल रहा है। भाई तू तेरा तराजू लेके चला जा, मुझे सोने दे अच्छे से, मुझे नींद आ रही है। तो इसमें मैं तोल सकता हूँ मेरे लिए, मतलब जिन नाम लिए हैं मेरे लिए, जैसे फ्री स्पिरिट अगर कहेंगे तो कमल स्वरूप है। मैं गया हूँ उनके साथ, मैं अजमेर तक, मतलब 1987 में मैं कमल के साथ था, फॉर दरबदर एक शेड्यूल में ऑफ कोर्स। और फिर बाद में क्योंकि उनके पास पैसे नहीं थे तो मैंने बहुत सारे वॉइस डब किए उस पिक्चर के। तो राजू स्टार भी मैं हूँ, और प्रोफेसर पद्मनाभन भी मैं हूँ, रिक्शा वाला भी मैं हूँ, जो भी छोटा मोटा कुछ इधर साउंड आता है, बोले ये कर ले यार, हाँ ठीक है। बगल में रहता था मैं अंधेरी में, नेक्स्ट टू आराधना स्टूडियो, पैडी का जो स्टूडियो। तो कमल स्वरूप फॉर मी इज द क्विंटेसेंशियल स्पिरिट। मतलब ओम दरबदर क्या मतलब कमल दरबदर है। अरे यार मतलब he's the raconteur of raconteurs, and the stories that he builds, you know, I mean, I am so affected by one small instance he narrated in one freaky night. which is not part of the film. He says Om is, there's a boy who's in a helicopter. You know, a helicopter which has that glass facade. वो हमारे टाइम का जो क्लासिकल हेलीकॉप्टर हुआ करता था, where it's all glass का कवच है, और वो एक ड्रीम बर्ड के बारे में सोच रहा है, एक सफेद पिजन के बारे में सोच रहा है, और वो उस पिजन आता है, लेकिन वो कवच तोड़ नहीं पाता है, वो अंदर नहीं आ पाता है at to his the person who's thinking about him, the boy who's thinking about him. तो वो ट्राई कर रहा है अपने चोंच से अंदर आने को, नहीं हो पाता, और वो फाइनली उन पंखों में जकड़ के कट जाता है, और उसके जो फेदर्स हैं, वाइट फेदर्स, वो ऐसे नीचे गिर रहे हैं धरती पर, और वहां से ओम चला आ रहा है, स्कूल जा रहा है, और ऐसा ही एक पंख उस ख्याली पिजन का पंख जिसपे लाल उसके खून के छींटे हैं, वो एक पंख उठा के उसको बुकमार्क बना देता है. आई थिंक इट्स मतलब इट्स, I don't know how to explain what happens inside when I just think up or conjure up what he has conjured as an, you know, as an episode of imagination. तो वो जो सफेद पंख जिसको लाल खून की छींटे लगी हैं, वही बुकमार्क लेके मैं 1987 से घूम रहा हूँ मेरे भाई.
So you also worked with Ketan Mehta in 1984 for a film called Holy, which was, I think, if I'm not wrong, entirely shot in FTI and Ferguson College, which is just next to the
Yeah, that's the main reason why I said yes to that film. वो क्योंकि FTI campus में थी, and Ketan को मैं मिल चुका था, and I was going to assist him also on the film, and I played one of the 6 main parts of the film. बाकी वैसे सब महेंद्र जोशी के ही लोग थे, वो बहुत सारे, आशुतोष गोवारीकर था उसमें, also Mahendra Joshi fine. Many of us are from Mahendra Joshi theatre, you know, from Paresh Rawal, Firoz Abbas Khan, जो मुगले आजम करते हैं, गांधी माय फादर जिन्होंने बहुत खूब फिल्म, अच्छी फिल्म बनाई, तमाशा also he made with Satish Kaushik. Then there is, I mean, name them, पूरा आमिर खान से लेके आतिश कापड़िया, ये विपुल अमृतलाल शाह, देवेन भोजानी, शर्मन जोशी तक. This is the workshop floor of Mahendra Joshi. इतने सारे actors, actresses, Padmavati Rao, Pinty, Arundhati Rao, who was introduced in Tokar.
Neeraj Vohra, I think, also was there.
Who?
Neeraj Vohra.
Neeraj, of course, was there. Neeraj, along with Ashutosh Gowarikar, they were Mithibai boys, and we were NM boys and girls. मतलब तो बहुत सारे लोग थे हम लोग. So this, why I'm saying is because you named the name, this goes back to Mahendra Joshi. This Ketan Mehta and starting Holi and doing auditions with us. His whole of Ketan Mehta, Mahendra Joshi actors went to meet Ketan at the International Women's Hostel. उनकी aunt जो थी Usha Mehta, the Gandhian, she was the warden of that hostel that time, and we all went there. So many of us. We made our new friendships. I made my friendship with Rajendranath Zutshi, a co-actor there. And all of us were there together at the FTI campus, essentially FTI. So उस film के लिए, for assisting and acting, one of the main parts, which was spread over 1.5 years, I was royally paid 1,000 rupees altogether. 1.5 साल के लिए. उसी मुकाबले में फिरोज अब्बास खान जो मेरे दोस्त हैं from theatre, so he had come in with a proposal of Rahul Ravel. तो वो उसी टाइम होने वाला था, and that was a film called Arjun with Sunny Deol. और वो एक रोल था दूसरा जो बाद में मास्टर सत्यजीत ने निभाया, is that friend who gets brutally murdered, and which is why Arjun becomes a angry young man. He was the fulcrum of the story, that Master Satyajit's role. So that was being offered to me. And along with that, I was getting offered 1,00,000 rupees. In Andheri East, I could buy a flat with that money. that time. A lakh of rupees. Believe you me. So having said that, when you choose 1,000 rupees over 1 lakh of rupees, there's definitely something very correct going in your head. You know? So I stayed with uh, Ketan Mehta, not just in Holi. वो तो हम लोग ने, I was there in the entire post of Holi, not just an actor, you know. And on my birthday, he offered me that you'll assist me and act in my next film called Garam Masala, which later became Mirch Masala. So all of 85, I was with Ketan till we finished our post production. We did the mixing, and that was very fruitful for me, that experience, because होली में तो खैर बहुत सारे लोग थे हम लोग. It was a workshop film with FTI. But in Mirch Masala, there were only 3 assistants, directors. So there was Anil Mehta, who later became a famous cameraman and also made one film for Yash Raj. And there was Paresh Naik, who was a poet. And there was me. And I was doing the costumes and helping art with Ashish Lakhia, my dear friend, and his mother, Meera Lakhia. And there was nobody, and there was Zucchi in production, Rajan Zucchi, the actor. There was me in direction, and there was Ashish Lakhia in art. We ran the entire show day and night with, just imagine, Nasiruddin Shah, Om Puri, Smita Patil, Dipti Nawal, Mohan Gokhale, Supriya Pathak, Ratna Pathak, you name it, the plethora, Paresh Rawal, Suresh Oberoi, Raj Babbar, the entire plethora of new wave cinema were actors in that film. I was also an actor. Mohan Gokhale climbs on my shoulders and tries to talk to Supriya Pathak in that film. I'm the other guy with Mohan Gokhale all the time. But that's besides the point. I don't celebrate that, and I don't celebrate Jo Jeeta also, because that was also an anomaly. Having said that, I mean, I don't know why, because it's commercial cinema, they always, this props up. And you acted in Jo Jeeta Wo Sikandar. I said, no, man, I didn't act in Jo Jeeta Wo Sikandar. I'm an actor who's used to center stage. I don't do these. I did this as a favor to Mansoor Khan. And because the actor didn't, I think Tom Alter had some viral fever and he didn't turn up. And because the unit was standing there and I was painting in Mansoor's sister's studio, I was Mansoor's main actor before he made Taare Zameen Par. So was I Amir's main actor. You know, Amir made a film called Open Window and Mansoor made a film called Umberto. So having the, you know, value of self in the center stage, it's unpalatable to me to be known as an actor of Jo Jeeta Wo Sikandar. It's very insulting actually. But having said that, I'm just joking, my dear. But what I meant was that when you are getting tutelage under Ketan Mehta, and in his best films, I joined Ketan Mehta because of 2 reasons. One is, of course, because he was making the film in FTI and I was residing in FTI hostel that time. And second thing is he made Bhavani Bhavai. How can we forget Bhavani Bhavai? You know, I think it's one of the best films made in India. And which is what drew me to Mr. Ketan Mehta. And he happens to, for me, he's a filmmaker with vision. And I was so happy and thrilled that he sent me such a beautiful message after Saina and recognized my intentions and their result. So, which was when your guru tells you that you hit the right note, you feel satisfied, to say the least. So Ketan Mehta and the chapter of Mirch Masala, there were no spot boys, my friend. There were no costume wardrobe assistants. There was nobody. There were just 26 actors that you had to service. And carrying huge trunks on my back. You've seen the film?
No, I haven't, but
you must see the film because the location is so beautiful. But in order to reach from base to location, you have to climb up and down hills, and with those trunks. So they made me very sturdy. So when I started making my own films as a producer, director, writer, whatever, When somebody says, I can't do it, I say, dude, I have done it. So I've done it without dress dadas and without spot boys and without anybody. There was only one Sai who was like a rickshaw driver from Rajkot or somewhere, or Ahmedabad, and he was Ketan's personal spot boy on floor. So Sai will go and buy his cigarettes, so he'll go and get the sir ke liye wo scarf chahiye, garmi bahut ho rahi hai, this that. But there was nothing for the unit. We were actually genuinely so embroiled in that project. So for us, it was a 22-hour workday, 2-hour rest. And we enjoyed every bit of it. I got paid again for putting 1.5 years of my life into that project, 5,000 rupees from NFDC. And that used to come in checks, which were like 250 rupees. Then after 8 months, 750 rupees ka check. And I am proud of it. Because thank God I was not fattened by money. And I got the latitude to learn because it was not connected with money. Today, world is very transactional. First question, somebody will ask you, what are you paying me? This is going the American way. So larger wisdom is kind of getting choked. Because there's no chance to for self growth. You're saying, no, I'm just doing it as a job for my master. Whenever I have a question with a young person like you who wants to say intern or join me, I say, I don't want you to work for me. I know you have the respect and all that, but you work for yourself. Yeah? Because I worked for myself. I didn't work for Ketan Mehta or Kundan Shah or Saeed Mirza or Mansoor Khan or anybody. I worked for myself. And which is why I could hold it. I'm not saying I'm successful. Please don't mistake it to be a brag or something. I'm just talking about process. For it's a litany actually against this world. And the world will laugh at me as kya baat kar rahe yaar, kuch kiya nahi, kali pili awaaz kar rahe. So it's not about that. It's about your own process. Are you enriching yourself? And if you're not enriching yourself, then you have one life, goddammit. So us one life ka tum kya karne wale? So you can be like Rip Van Winkle and just go to sleep for 20 years, which is also very good advice to young people. कि अगर कुछ गलत नहीं करना है ना तो सो जाओ 20 साल के लिए, फिर उठो, फिर देखो क्या हो रहा है ये सब. So I would seriously feel that process is more important than result. Yes,
You said we are going to the American way, and there's this famous filmmaker Alfred Hitchcock who said, art, cinema is an art made for commerce. But on the other side, you kind of disagreed with him with this statement in a
no,
sense.
but see, Hitchcock always worked with stars.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of currency with the stars. They believed in it. James Stewart हो, जो भी सब जितने सारे बड़े-बड़े लोग सबने काम किया with Hitchcock. So he had a habit of working within the system, using its resource to maximum. But his system was American film system. It already had about openings in every continent of the world in terms of distribution. It could look after those gigantic costs. It was from a first world country. I live in a third world nation. I sit, on a set where a star is meant to come at 9 in the morning and he doesn't appear till 9 in the evening. And the set khada hai, log khade hai, bacche khade hai. Everybody is waiting for this, God to appear. I feel in a third world country, it's an insult to its population. That's why I want to run away from that value system where a person thinks he's larger than other people, other humans. It cannot be. You might think about it as yourself. I'm a superstar. I've got following. I got this. I got Insta. I got Shinsta. All that. But when you finally make your peace with the Lord, तो तुम हो या तुम्हारे बगल का गरीब आदमी सब सेम है भैया. तो सबको रिस्पेक्ट करना सीखो ना यार. तो जिस दिन तुम रिस्पेक्ट पाओगे, विच इज एन प्रोफेशनल एथिक इन हॉलीवुड. ऐसा नहीं है ना उधर के 7 बजे की शिफ्ट में कोई शाम को 4 बजे डोलता हुआ आ रहा है, बोला 1.5 घंटा दूंगा फिर भागता हूँ. ये तरीका है. कैन वी इवन इक्वेट इट विथ फिल्म मेकिंग और सिनेमा? आई डोंट थिंक सो. आई थिंक इट्स अ वैनिटी फेयर. तो ये वैनिटी की, किसी की वैनिटी पालना, ये तुम्हारे रूह में नहीं होना चाहिए कोई भी. अभी ठीक है भैया, यू आर अ सुपरस्टार, बट देयर आर पीपल, learn from Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. In my time, I had a dear friend from my society, Bankim Desai. He was Prakash Mehra's assistant. So he used to regularly take us to see Mr. Bachchan's shootings. I was living just next to Natraj studio and Seth studio. So Mr. Bachchan preferred to be in Seth studio because it was a AC studio and because it gave him the comfort of doing good work. So अगर 9 बजे की शिफ्ट है तो मिस्टर बच्चन इज रेडी विद मेकअप एट 8:30 AM in his room. There were no vanity vans then. So in his makeup room, he's ready, waiting for instructions, never having an ego larger than the filmmaker, and submitting to his filmmakers. If they goofed up, they goofed up. But as a process, he never questioned it. Today, you have a chint of anybody who's got some basic recognition in this Hindi film industry. He has the right to ask you what are your motivations in doing this scene. Why this line, why that? अरे भाई पढ़े लिखो बनो यार पहले. तो अनपढ़ लोगों की जमात में कैसे आदमी काम कर सकता है? उसको मैं क्यों इम्प्रेस करूं और क्या मैं उससे इम्प्रेशन लूंगा? एवरी टाइम ऐसे लगेगा कि कोर्ट चालू है, कि योर ऑनर पूछ रहे हैं कि ये आपने ये शॉट क्यों लगाया, ये लाइन क्यों है, ये ऐसा क्यों है, वो वैसा क्यों है. अभी इतना बड़ा अगर कैनवस है तो एक ही आदमी वो पेंटिंग देख सकता है. भाई तू तो कलर है, जैसे आर्ट डायरेक्शन कलर है, कॉस्ट्यूम कलर है, एक्टर कलर है, म्यूजिक कलर है. ये सारे यूजिंग ऑल दीज वैल्यूएशंस यू क्रिएट अ लार्जर पिक्चर. तब बनती है ना. मतलब व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वेरी बिग हॉलीवुड, David Lean adventures or William Wyler adventures. So the scale of their films. So you think, will Gregory Peck or Cary Grant ask that question? Okay, hey Willie, I just don't, I can't, I don't know why I should do this. I'm not bringing it to India. I'm bringing it to India via Mr. Bachchan, whose idea was to make his aesthetic appealable. His entire preparation for every scene. He never faltered on lines. He amazing memory system. My better half, Deepa Bhatia, who of course is much bigger than I am, she edited a film called Dev for Govind Nilani ji, her mentor. And when she was seeing the rushes and the long takes with such huge amount of literary lines, very powerful lines, he never bats an eyelid, which means he's putting all his energy not into all this. He's putting his energy into his performance. And the erudition. A poet's son is going to sound like a poet with his language. That's the beauty. So when you're learning things, don't learn the wrong things. There are enough examples of good things for you to hone your skills. So I genuinely feel asphyxiated by the star system. in our cinema, because there's such severe doubt from a person who's unlettered. You know? So at one time when there was Balraj Sahani and Bimal Roy could give you Do Bigha Zameen. There was Dilip Kumar, Bimal Roy could give you Devdas. Or he could give with Vaijantimala and with Dilip Kumar. They created magic. So when you're saying कि ताली एक हाथ से बज सकती है क्या? नहीं बज सकती, पर दो हाथ से अगर ताली बज रही है तो दो इक्वल हाथ है भाई. तो यू कांट से कि यार द होल बिजनेस और इंडस्ट्री तो मेरे कंधे पे, मैंने हाँ कहा तो ठीक है आगे बढ़ेंगे, मैंने ना कहा तो. बट दैट पर्सन इज नॉट understanding that in the history of cinema he's losing a lot of property by just being an oafish dictator of content. नहीं ये ऐसा नहीं करते, नहीं ये तो मेरे फैंस को ये पसंद ही नहीं. अरे भाई रहने दो ना यार. You have to submit. As an actor you have to submit. You can discuss but you can't debate. That would mean that two people are seeing the same film. They can't. You can't see the same film as the director sees it, the writer director. And it's a misnomer to think that you can pull it off, because you can't pull it off. You can pathogenize that person called the writer director. You can parasite that person called the writer director. But you can't wear that person's shoes. That will cause either the shoe or you a lot of anguish and pain. So, to each his own roti, bhaiya. The idea is that आप किस आग पे कौन सी रोटी सेक रहे हैं. आपको बटर नान चाहिए तो बटर नान खाओ, या तो रोटी भी वही काम करती है पेट में जो बटर नान करता है. I think it's your choice. Okay, how easy you can be, and are you afraid of solitude? I'm not afraid of solitude ever. You can put me in a room for 10 days without me seeing a person. I would like to create my own peace without doing vipassana, without doing any, external ritual. फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा मेरे. ऐसा.
You said an important point there that sometimes these stars kind of dictate, but you
sometimes,
are
sometimes it's like really understating it.
so let's say
I'm quite brazen about it. I'm brazen about it. I'm saying, अरे यार 4 किताबें पढ़ो फिर आओ यार.
Yeah.
मैं आपका ग्रेजुएशन सर्टिफिकेट नहीं ढूंढ रहा हूँ, आपका विजडम ढूंढ.
Yeah. And because you are also an actor, you also direct cinema. How do you balance when you are acting for another director? How do you balance your inner director when you are acting and inner actor when you are directing?
As an actor, I have the opportunity to show my range to my director. So I can show the whole palette. कि ये lines है, ये scene है, ये ऐसे कर सकता हूँ, ये pitch में कर सकता हूँ, ये pitch में कर सकता हूँ, आपको exaggerated चाहिए. Because right now I am attending your shoot as your actor. So you make a choice. I can give you choices. As an actor, I can give you choices. And as a director, also I give choices. Because I work with children. I don't work, actually, I have fun with children. We never work a single day of, I must have had 5,000 children in 5 of my films altogether. But not a single child has lost a single day of school. So it's done as weekend. It's done in small spurts, like a workshop. So them too, of course, I can at the most narrate the scene. We do a workshop. I have never auditioned children in my life in terms of, as a director, writer, I have not auditioned. Producers might have auditioned, it's their headache. But after film one, I became my own producer, so I did not allow anybody to interfere in my processes with children. But having said that, the quintessential reality is that children cannot be directed. So, which is why there are some real asses who have coined these phrases. This phrase is a hurting, insulting phrase. Okay, animals and children, nightmare to direct. You heard this phrase, right? It's very difficult to make films with animals and children. What are you thinking? Your own incompetence, you're pushing on to the child. I mean, that's so sinful, no? I feel it's insulting to the child. And you forget that once upon a time you were a child yourself. You were not a dog when you were growing up and then suddenly became a man. No, you were a child. You don't remember how intelligent you were when you were 6 years old and 7 years old. That's my khazana. I go back to my childhood and I say, okay, how was I thinking? How I could manipulate my mother? How I could save that 25 naya paisa for myself from the grocery list so that later I can buy a 25 naya Poppins, Parle Poppins, या 15 पैसे का mints. तो उतना sharpness होता है अपने बच्चों में. You have to just be the trigger for that, and they'll reinterpret it. Partho has done 2 of my films, Stanley Ka Dabba and Hawa Hawai. He's of course seen in Taare Zameen Par also. He plays the little baby Ishan's elder brother as they walk in the school, holding his hand. But then he was so small that I couldn't cast him as Ishan, because we are talking about reading and writing, and he was below that reading writing competence that teachers look for. Having said that, 2 films he's done with me, and he's been my guru in both the films, in Hawa Hawai and in Stanley too, of course. Because there's so much I got to know from the children's group while the workshop was on, that for me it's like a nal khule kahin, it's like bhar ke wisdom. And that I try to use in my real life as well. I mean, it's not a joke that when they say the child is the father of the man, you have to learn to respect the child and then accept what he or she is doing from the gut, because that might be better than your ill-programmed assistant director who's going to a child and saying, अच्छा आपको लाइन बोलनी है, अंकल अंकल क्या क्या दिखेगा, और वो बच्चा तुमको देख रहा है एज असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर, और उसको तुम वो इमिटेट कर रहा है, योर लिमिटेड अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ एक्टिंग. तो वो भी उधर कैमरा चालू हो गया, अंकल अंकल, तो वही बोलेगा, वही टोन करेगा, वो उसको कहां से टोन मिलेगा अदरवाइज. तो एज अ डायरेक्टर तुम पप्पू निकले, एज योर असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर पप्पू निकला, बिकॉज यू ऑल कुड नॉट कम्युनिकेट टू द बॉय और द गर्ल. फिर बोलते हो यार वो मासूम वाला बच्चा कितना अच्छा कर गया है. अरे वो जुगल हंसराज कर गया बिकॉज वो शेखर कपूर इतना माहिर है और मैच्योर है, वो बच्चों को समझता है, उसको ओवर नहीं चाहिए, उसको he understands the sur. Finally, in a character is the sur. So as a director, I can lead the children to the sur by enacting it first as an actor. ये पूरा सीन कर लो, बोला अच्छा बाबा तू बोल, ये बोल, तू बोल, ऐसे करके हो जाता है. Magic happens in 5 minutes. आप खामखा 90 वाले टेक लेने में तुले, ये फर्स्ट टेक ही ओके हो गया भाई, तो रिहर्सल ही ओके हो गया. सो मैं तो रिहर्सल करता था, उसको टेक बोलता था. कैमरा पर्सन को जो लाइट लगते नहीं थे अपने स्टैनली में ना हवा हवाई में, तो जो है लाइट वैसा है, कैमरा पर्सन को बोला तू रोल करता रहे. अमोल गोले, ही वाज अ स्टिल फोटोग्राफर, तो वो खुद अपना फोकस कर रहा है, तो देयर इज नो नीड फॉर अ फोकस पुलर, नो नथिंग. वो इतना छोटा 7D कैमरा लेके नजदीक जा रहा है, दूर जा रहा है, यू आर गेटिंग मैजिक. एवरीबॉडी इज नेचुरल, no scripts. I never give paper on to children on set. तो ऐसे मुंह बोले, तुम अपना बना लो ना उसको. क का की हो गया तो मेरे को क्या फर्क पड़ता है, सेंस आ रहा है कि नहीं आ रहा. You have to finally create the scene for the sense. It's not something that you have to ratta maro and vomit it out. पूरा naturalness निकल जाता है. So my to answer both those questions, as an actor, I comply with the director but give him options and make him uh, take a choice of that. कौन सा वाला. And as a director, I can lead you without imposing on you. Because first I'll do it for you. तो जो भी है, दो भाइयों का सीन है सपोज. दादा आज मैं स्कूल से भाग गया. क्या? व्हाट? कहाँ? कुछ नहीं, इधर उधर. इधर उधर मतलब? अरे कोई गाड़ी टकरा सकती है. somebody can kidnap you. तुम वो सीन करके दिखा रहे हो ना. बच्चा देख रहा है, बोलो ये ठीक से कर रहा है, मेरे को भी ऐसे ही करना है. मैं तो मेरे दादा दादा मैं बड़ी आंखें करके अगर मैं बोलता तो बड़ी आंखें करके बोले. रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, दिखावा का बना देते हैं रॉकेट साइंस, वो सेल्फ इंपॉर्टेंस के चक्कर. When Partho, we see 2 films he did with me. Stanley Ka Dabba, he got the National Award, he got the Filmfare Award, the Star Screen Award, the Big Star Award, he got the Best Actor in Schlingel in Germany, he was celebrated in Italy. So he already got it in his first film, what all actors aspire to get in their lifetime. The second film, he was celebrated because he was a skater himself in Hawa Hawai. He was mentioned and celebrated both in Italy, in Schlingel, in Germany, in India too. But he refused to do another film after that. And in between these two, all these big food franchises, whether it's a food drink franchise or they all came because he was the national award winning, chocolate piece. So they wanted him to do to endorse as the main child model and all. He refused. From the time Partho was born, the day he was born, it was decided that nobody will go out of the house. So Deepa and I took work which was from the home. Like work from home, aajkal to it's a reality. But in that time, we would do writing, research, to is tarah. So he's the first one who stepped out at 2.5 to go to Besant Montessori School, which was a paradise. It's like a little wonderland in Juh. So he has the right from the time he learned how to speak to date. He is the person who dictates the menu to me. I'm the father, the cook of the house. So what he doesn't want, he will not say. And what he wants, he will say, and he will eat. He will not refuse it because he asked for it. Have you ever gone to a restaurant where you ask for a meal and then you say, nahi, mujhe nahi chahiye? So that's human behavior. So you learn to respect the child in your house. He takes decisions on his own. At 14, he made his first film called Pigeonhood. It was well received around the world at 14. It's just documenting from laying an egg, a pigeon laid an egg, and he shot it with his 600D camera till the pigeon hatchling grew up and flew away. It was called Pigeonhood, well celebrated film. Then he made Jasmine's Tongue about roadside Gajra seller and his sister. And he wrote a poem which was published along with that. And then he made a third film. And these were his portfolio films. He got accepted at NYU Tisch and at USC School of Cinematic Arts, University of Southern California. He chose West Coast over East Coast. This May, a month ago, we went to celebrate his graduation. And he made one more film. He was picked up by Colin Trevorrow, the writer-director of Jurassic World, gave him a grant, choosing the only script among 500 world scripts for him to go ahead and make the film. He made it with Chitra Palekar. It's called Shine and Shade. It won at the Harlem Best Film. So वो हो गया. Now he's winging it as a writer director, and he didn't want to lick off the famous बच्चा है तो celebrity. No. So you know what I mean. When something goes right, it goes right, and it better be set within the family. So this is not my teaching. This is my grandmother's teaching. That's my father's teaching. We've just followed it as you would in a Gurukul. First from the family gurus, then from the school gurus. And kisko bad teachers nahi milte yaar. But am I going to waste time pointing out bad teachers? No. I'd rather use that time in pointing out good teachers and their wisdom, because that can be of help. Just bitching up a teacher is not going to help anybody. बोला हाँ यार मेरे साथ भी ऐसा हुआ, बहुत ही खड़ूस टीचर था. मालूम है यार, सब मिलेंगे, खड़ूस मिलेंगे, सब मिलेंगे लाइफ में, बट राह दिखाने वाला कौन, बैटरी पकड़ने वाला कौन, टॉर्च पकड़ने वाला कौन, उसको फॉलो करो ना यार. एक जिंदगी है, मैं बोल रहा हूँ, रोटी वही खानी है, आई कीप रिपीटिंग इट. तो इतना उथल पुथल क्यों? Why flutter when you can gather your energy and you can pass it on to the next generation, and which is what I'd like to do in life. I'd like to learn from Partho all my life and pass on the new wisdom which I'm not privy to, because mera time nikal gaya. You can't keep upgrading. You have to upgrade from the next generation. और उसमें कोई शर्म की बात नहीं है, उसमें एक्चुअली celebration की बात कि something went right in the next generation, which is what I'm accepting. And if that becomes the cachet of wisdom, then that cachet I would like to use by starting something as solid as Shantiniketan as a school system, which is non-numerical, which does not judge children, and which integrates the arts with the economics and with the other subjects. And it should be free-flowing. It should have visiting faculty, which comes at their will and with a lot of need to share, rather than the job to do as a teacher. वही सेम चैप्टर अभी एक नए स्कूल को सिखाने का, नए क्लास को. मालूम है वो टीचर का टीडीएम मैं समझता हूँ, पर अगर टीचर को टीचर ट्रेनिंग में थिएटर एक्सपीरियंस मिले तो यू कैन बिकम अ परफॉर्मर इन क्लास एज अ टीचर, लाइक जॉनसन सर वाज, लाइक निकुम सर वाज, लाइक थॉमस परमार वाज, लाइक नामवर सर थ्रू द बुक एंड सेड हिज ओन पोएम. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ये ऐसे टीचर कहाँ से, वो तो सेल्फ लर्न थे कि ये आई हैव टू कास्ट अ स्पेल इन द क्लास. तो पहले मैं दिखाता हूँ कि फॉर अ फ्यू डॉलर्स मोर में क्लिंट ईस्टवुड कैसे गन ड्रॉ करता है, फिर मैं सीधा अलजेब्रा में आ जाता हूँ. दोनों एक सरीका लगेगा सबको, और वही तो मजा है. सो टीचर को एक तो शुड हैव द फीलिंग ऑफ सेल्फ एस्टीम of wanting to be attractive in the classroom. And I'm not talking about the length of your dress, but your inbuilt attractiveness. That is the elixir which will be given to students to drink. अगर वो नहीं है तो फिर काय का टीचर है? फिर तो नौकरी करो, कोई कहीं भी जाके नौकरी करो, फिर एक ही बात है. पर अगर if you want to water the plants and see them grow, then there has to be a different passion in your heart. तो सबसे पहले वो टीचर सुधारक संघ होना चाहिए कि टीचर को ये कभी भी फॉर ग्रांटेड नहीं लेना चाहिए कि बच्चा बच्चा है. I just heard, अभी I'm telling you, that was like almost a page from my diary. The Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, was in Banaras for Varanasi for the teachers meet, ऐसे कि अभी अभी मैं 15-20 मिनट बच्चों को मिलके आ रहा हूँ, और जो जितना मेरे को अलाउड था उतना टाइम वो मैं दे पाया। मैं तो और रहना चाहता था, लेकिन मुझे यहाँ आना पड़ा. तो he said a lovely line which I almost feel that I say the line nearly every day of my life. I said मैं वहां से सुन के आया हूँ और आपको सुनाने जा रहा हूँ. These are all adult teachers. Huh? There was about 1,000-2,000 teachers in that auditorium. So if that's the first flame कि अगर बच्चों की जो बात है वो अपने कान से अच्छे से सुनेंगे और कुछ देखेंगे कि ये क्या चाहता है, क्या चाहती है, and if we pay genuine attention to how to address their needs in terms of education and wisdom, then we can recreate a curriculum which is like Shanti Niketan. वो गुरुदेव का एंथम तो हम गाते ही हैं, तो गुरुदेव का दूसरा विजडम भी क्यों नहीं अपना रहे? उसके बदले में महंगे महंगे स्कूल खोल रहे हैं, तो स्कूल ज्यादा नहीं कम और क्लब ज्यादा लग रहे हैं. मेरे जमाने में नेबरहुड स्कूल था, तो राजा और रंक, रिच एंड द पुअर सब अपने कॉर्नर वाले स्कूल में भेजते थे. तो देयर वाज मंथन, देयर वाज इंटरकोर्स अमंग क्लासेस, एक दूसरे की सहानुभूति होती थी. देयर वाज एम्पैथी फॉर जेन्युइनली, अरे इसको, इसीलिए तो मैं स्टैनली का डब्बा बना पाया. इट्स अबाउट हंगर एंड व्हिच इज हिडन बिहाइंड अ स्कूल यूनिफॉर्म. And there used to be a Stanley in my classroom when I was a primary student and a mid-school student. It's a tribute to him and his tragic, beautiful life. तो अगर मैं कोई ऐसे एयर कंडीशन क्लासरूम में बैठ के एयर कंडीशन टीचिंग लूं और फिर एयर कंडीशन गाड़ी में बैठ के एयर कंडीशन घर में आ जाऊं, सब कुछ एयर कंडीशन रहेगा भाई. And because the fee structure is such, it is not admissible to the poor.
Yeah.
You know, तो फिर आपके बच्चे उतना ही जान पाएंगे. आपके बच्चे क्या जान पाएंगे? तो जब पार्थो मेरे साथ, when he was barely 3 years old, and I used to run a cinema studies and a theater studies workshop in municipal schools of Mumbai in Bandra. हर सैटरडे जाना है, पहले दाल चावल या तो खिचड़ी खानी है, बिकॉज भूखे पेट सिनेमा हजम नहीं होता. तो पहले बैठ के हम लोग सिनेमा से पहले खिचड़ी या दाल चावल, और फिर ऐसे मेले से सफेद चादर पर वो कैन प्रोजेक्टर से फातेर पांचाली दिखाओ, ये दिखाओ, वो दिखाओ, माजिद माजिदी दिखाओ. तो उसमें ये मेरा सहपाठी है पार्थो, 3 साल की 4 साल की उम्र से. तो उसके सारे जो दोस्त हैं वो गुर्बत में पले, जिनके घर में शायद हर रोज खाना भी ना बनता हो. तो यू गेट एम्पैथेटिक. तो ऑल हिज फिल्म्स आर अबाउट पुअर चिल्ड्रन, यू नो. It's about the poor. It's about the dispossessed. Because he's seen that up close. So, will it or will it not make a difference when you are exposed to, a cross culture of the rich, the poor, the middle class? It's inevitable that you will be sensitive as an artist. तो वो आर्ट तो सिर्फ CSR बोल के, to just tick the boxes, आप भी जानते, मैं भी जानता हूँ कि I want to intern, क्यों वो कुछ कोई ऐसा NGO जिधर जाके थोड़ा कुछ आवर्स क्लॉक इन करें तो मेरे मार्कशीट में इजाफा होता है. That's not the true spirit of mankind. यार, मदद करना है तो अंदर से करो. It's not just because Gandhiji says it. Yeah. Gandhiji also learned it from Gopal Krishna Gokhale. You go and visit the nation. गांधी जी जब वहां से आए साउथ अफ्रीका से, तो सूट पहन के ही आए थे. बैरिस्टर थे. तो गोपाल कृष्ण गोखले ने उनको ये कहा ना, जीके गोखले बोले कि जाओ अपना देश देखो. तो जैसे जैसे उनके सफर बढ़ते गए वैसे वैसे उनके कपड़े घटते गए, बैगेज कम हो गया. बैगेज कम होने से इतना बड़ा लेसन हमको सिखा के गए दुनिया को। तो ना आइंस्टाइन को छोड़ा, ना किसी को छोड़ा।
Yeah.
मिरेकल है ना, कैसे भूल सकते हैं मिरेकल। तो इतना सिंपल करेंगे तो क्या बुरा होगा? जीवन क्या कम हो जाएगा? क्या हो जाएगा? कितना भोगोगे? हाउ मच विल यू कंज्यूम? somebody is not getting food to eat and you're consuming, मतलब तो वो हलक से नीचे खाना कैसे जा सकता है? You have to participate. It's not about empathy. It is about actually wanting to create a more equitable world.
Yeah.
बच्चे मर रहे हो, खाना नहीं है, और आप फेंक रहे हो खाना। थोड़ा सा अजीब नहीं लगता क्या? ये हमने वेस्ट से सीखा ना।
Yeah.
वहां देखो होमलेसनेस, देखो लॉस एंजलिस में, देखो सैन फ्रांसिस्को में, देखो ये होमलेस भटक रहे हैं। दुनिया उनके बारे में सोच नहीं रही, दिमाग निकल गया है, रेंटिंग कर रहे हैं, रास्ते पे चिल्ला रहे हैं। हर रास्ते पे तुमको ये नजारा दिखेगा। अभी लंदन में भी लोगों ने देखना शुरू किया, होमलेस पीपल अपना वो बस्ता लेके घूम रहे हैं, कोई प्रैम वैम में अपना सामान डाल के घूमते रहते। ऐसा इतना बुरा अपना नहीं है भारत।
Yeah.
ये इस तरह का कि आप घर से बेघर हो गए, रास्ते पे आ गए, पढ़े लिखे इंसान है, दिमाग खो दिया। दिस इज वेस्टर्न संस्कृति। दिस इज मतलब जस्ट बस पैसा और कुछ नहीं। बैंक आ जाएगा, चलो भाई घर खाली करो, आपका किस्त नहीं आया। पहले तो आपको लुभा लिया कि देखो कितना अच्छा घर है, कितना अच्छा लाइफ हो जाएगा। आप पूरा उधार की जिंदगी जी रहे हो। और हम लोग का भारतीय संस्कृति बहुत पुराना है कि भाई चादर उतनी जितना पैर, या पैर उतने जितनी चादर। सो वैल्यू सिस्टम देखो ना मेरे भाई।
So, very few filmmakers, क्योंकि you gave this wonderful answer और उसमें मेरे 5-6 सवाल वैसे ही आंसर हो गए, but very few filmmakers understand this child psychology. I remember there's this film by Satyajit Ray called Two, which is a short film where there are two children, one is poor, one is rich, and there's this kind of dialogue without verbal dialogues. There's this dialogue happening between the two, which is a beautiful film. If people see it on YouTube, it's on the Oscars Academy YouTube channel. So interestingly, when you make films, children film, in Stanley Ka Dabba, you were the Khadoos teacher, and when I watched it, I was terrified. By your character. I met my teachers when I went to school next day. So I couldn't face my art teacher because he was somebody who used to say, मैं हाथ से बात करता हूँ, मैं मुंह से बात नहीं करूँगा. So that character. So why do you tend to take these villainous characters in your films, children films?
सिर्फ एक ही बार किया, वो स्टैनली में ही किया मैंने एक्चुअली। बाकी तो वो कमीने में मैं पहली बार कमीना बना, फिर ये स्टैनली किया मैंने, क्योंकि स्टैनली में मैंने क्यों वो कैरेक्टर मुझे मालूम था खड़ूस का, वर्मा जो है। पर मैं तो वर्कशॉप की तरह कर रहा था फिल्म। सो 4.5 hours एवरी सैटरडे, तो साल भर चला। फिर थोड़ा दिवाली में 4-5 दिन एक साथ। तो कोई टाइम जो है फिक्स नहीं था। तो दिव्या दत्ता और दिव्या जगदाले को तो मैंने आई कुड लिमिट देम टू, हाँ चल 5 सैटरडेज आप दे दो, 5 सैटरडेज आप दे दो, आपका काम मैं निपट दूंगा। बट खड़ूस का मुझे मालूम नहीं था कि कितना होगा, क्योंकि वो ही इज द एंटेगनिस्ट। और मैंने जुत्शी को ऑफर किया था खड़ूस कैरेक्टर, मुझे नहीं एक्टिंग का शौक था तब। बट देन जुत्शी ने बोला यार मेरा 1-1.5 महीने का अभी शूटिंग है, फिर ये वो है। तो मैं बोला यार ये तो मैं किसी एक्टर को भी बोलूंगा तो वो बोलेगा भाई मेरे को बोलो, क्योंकि ये तो सैटरडे टू सैटरडे साल भर में नहीं दे पाऊँ। तो सर इससे बेटर ये है कि पहले रिसेस तक जो है बच्चों का काम करो, पहले और दूसरे रिसेस के बीच में बाकी के शॉट्स ले लो, लाइक फूड शॉट्स हैं, ये है वो है, और जो लास्ट रिसेस के बाद का जो आधा पौना घंटा है, मुंह में एक पान डालो, और कपड़े तो मैं पहन के आता था घर से खड़ूस के, बोला चलो भाई पलटाओ कैमरा, अमोल, वो भी मेरा अमोल ही है, वो भी अमोल गोले, बोला चल अभी अपना शुरू करते हैं। उनके ओवरहेड शॉट्स, बट फेस शॉट्स मेरे। सो इट वाज इजियर फॉर मी टू मैनिपुलेट दैट जोन, क्योंकि एक एक्स्ट्रा एक्टर आएगा तो सबके ध्यान जाएगा, ये जाएगा, हालांकि लाइट लगे नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, क्लासरूम उनका अपना है, उनके ही स्कूल में मैं कर रहा हूँ, it becomes a different world. So I didn't want to that some outside person to interfere in that world because they were so comfortable. मेरे पास ना असिस्टेंट थे, कुछ थे, अर्चना और फराज थे, they were my interns, and there was no crew member. So there was Amol Gole, myself, and Madhu Apsara, who was a national award winning sound engineer, recordist for Money Calls films. He's done sound. So of he was an ace sound recordist, and he was so non-interfering. वरना normally sound engineers, they throw a tantrum, ये चाहिए वो चाहिए, where's my rack, ये Madhu used to just strap the deva on his shoulder and hold the boom himself, and we've got the best sound in Stanley. You compare, it's 100% sync sound, and if you compare Stanley sound or Hawa Hawai sound to other sync sound films, you'll find they are much more superior than those films. Though they might have better input and better technicians and this and that. Better means more decorated technicians, I would say. But we knew how a 3-member guerrilla team can make a film with 30 children, without interfering with their curriculum, with their lives, just giving them good fun for the day, That's important for the children to carry home a workshop experience. And they never thought, and I cautioned them, I said, don't start thinking that you will see yourself on the hoarding and all. फिर दिमाग खराब हो जाएगा. So I was coaching their parents, I was coaching them, counseling them throughout. This is an exercise like how you would do it in your school as a workshop. इससे ज्यादा उसको अहमियत मत दो और उसके information को अहमियत दो. What you learn from, but not what is the result in terms of glitz and showbiz, because उधर मर जाओगे. जैसे बहुत सारे दूसरे रोते बैठते हैं कि फिर क्या हुआ बाद में, तो कुछ नहीं हुआ, ये हुआ, ट्रेजेडी है उधर. There's a tragedy playing out there. Yeah.
No, I hope I can make it to one of your workshops someday. But you once remarked that sometimes we tend to ignore children in our cinema, and maybe because they don't have a voting right, you said.
Yes.
So,
I'm a representative.
Hmm.
So I'm putting all my energies to the benefit of the disenfranchised. Yeah. And that is the children population, under 18 population. Because if you're no voting right nahi hai, to fir kaun kiske, you're not in anybody's roster. And why should you be? Because everything is because it's you have to appease. तो ये सब करना पड़ता है. अब ये इनको क्या अपीज करेंगे बच्चे को? उसको तो खाली कमांड करना है, बैठो उठो ये करो. I do one thing, I don't know whether I've said this earlier, not on this interview. I was called to Kochi to do like a master address after all Taare Zameen Par and all. 2000 ICSC school principals. They had a retreat, 3-day retreat there of the ICSE stream. So the 2000 school principals were there. So I was called on stage, and it was my time, 40 minutes or whatever, 45 minutes. So I said, okay, first I'd like to do a prayer. So I hope you can be seated, and from where you are, you can do the prayer. But you'll have to just follow me and just follow what I do as a prayer. So they all like kind of, koi aisa pakad raha hai, pakad raha hai. Then I looked at all of them and I said, okay, here goes. सबसे पहले तो पता ही नहीं चला, तो देख रहे हैं इसको, शायद उसको खांसी आई है, पता नहीं क्या है, या छींक आई है. ऐसे आई एम रिपीटिंग. किसी को पता चला, 5-6 लोगों ने किया. प्रिंसिपल्स थे ना भाई. 3 बार किया, उतने ही लोगों ने किया. आई सेड यार आप बच्चों से जो मांगता है करवाते हो, मैं आपसे बोल रहा हूँ कि खाली मेरे को फॉलो करो, खाली एक प्रेयर करते हैं हम लोग, तो आपको इतनी शिकन क्यों हो रही है? Why are you feeling so, conscious and embarrassed? You should do it, no? The way you expect the children to do what you're bidding without questioning. Because questioning is like not allowed, boss. Classroom में एक ही bully हो सकता है, बस वो teacher है, you know. तो आई थिंक फिर तुम लोग क्या अपेक्षा करते हो बच्चों से? If you cannot submit to a person who you invited to do a master lecture, if you can't even respect his bidding, he's asking you to do, but you will not do, because you're so conscious of yourself and your position and your esteem. बोले ये तो मैं तो बेवकूफ लगूंगी या लगूंगा ऐसे करूंगा, तो ये तो है ही बेवकूफ, लेकिन मैं क्यों करूं? तो मेरा तो वो ओहदा है, जिस तरह मैं फोन उठाता हूँ, जब बात करता हूँ, पेरेंट्स को बुलाता हूँ, टीचर्स को बुलाता हूँ, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को बुलाता हूँ, भाई मेरा रोब है, प्रिंसिपल का रोब है, तो वो मैं कैसे छोड़ सकता हूँ? वो मुझे बेवकूफी में करने को बोल रहा है, मैं थोड़ी करूंगा. तो इट्स अ लर्निंग लेसन लाइक कोल्हापुर एयरपोर्ट.
And how do you see the importance of children's films in India or in general?
Are there any children's films in India? I don't think so, because there is no revenue model. You know, I think one of the most successful children's films, two of them, were Do Bigha Zameen with the boy, Master Ratan, and Dosti, produced by Rajshri Films. You know? And that is also on disability person. There's a blind boy and there's a lame boy. And the symbiosis of these two friends. It ran forever. You know, songs by, I think, LP, Lakshmikant Pyarelal, lyrics by Majru Sultanpuri, all biggies, and Rajshri, a good production house. But uske aage, I don't know, but I think like there was Anurag in the 70s. वो मास्टर सत्यजीत था, and there's a blind Maushmi Chatterjee, and Rajesh Khanna was a flower vendor who like a guest appearance with Vinod Mehra. And then the boy, I think, passes away because of cancer. And then he has, in the meantime, donated his corneas for Maushmi Chatterjee's eyes or something. Successful films I'm talking about, with children as central characters. There's Shore also of Manoj Kumar, very beautiful film about deaf and dumb. There are things, I mean, it's not that Shwas tha, Marathi film, which went for the Oscars from India. But, to disillusion the audience using cancer as a tool is a very bad thing to do. Just to, extract some tears from your audience's eyes. But you're doing more damage to the people who are working in the sector of that disease, and to the children and their parents who lose hope when they see something like these, all these big films. सब में वो cancer becomes like a death warrant है. वो थोड़ा सा सुधारना जरूरी है, और खासकर जब बच्चों के साथ आप करते हो तो ऐसा लगता है कि यू आर यूजिंग द इमोशंस इन अ रॉन्ग वे. थोड़ा पाप करने जैसा है, वो नहीं होना चाहिए.
And you were also the chairperson of the Children Film Society.
For 3 years I was there.
Yeah.
But I tried to ask them, and I tried some parts of it, if there is no distribution system, then why are we making films? Is it to just disburse the money because it's a mandate? Because that's not wise, because it's a waste of taxpayers' money. So I said, unless we create a sturdy distribution system, which is self-paying for. So imagine you're putting 2.5 crores in a film with children's content. So the minimum it should do is get back the principal amount so that you can make one more. Just because there's a mandate, you can't just keep putting money there because there's no outlet to show the film. So I said, two things let's do. Let's do school nets where schools can go to, like, all these multiplexes, and we tie up with the multiplex and the schools for them to take their children to see CFSI films. I began it. It was not, I didn't find traction, frankly, not in my period at least. And the second thing is, I said we should change the rules of children in the media, at least our films. So of course there is NCPCR, there is other child protection rights agencies, but suppose you were to take an Indian child actor to the US or Europe, then you can't shoot more than that many hours there, and you can't do this, you can't do that, doctor on set, so many things. You have to adhere to it because one person is sitting there. In India, an animal welfare board man has to be seated, even if there's a dog's tail in your frame. But if there's child, nobody's thinking about it. So you see random reality shows and other things. Parents boast कि मेरे बच्चे ने 36 hours awake था और ये किया, 40 घंटे सोया नहीं. वो 40 घंटे सोया नहीं, इसका मतलब 40 घंटे काम किया ना उसने. तो ये क्या करेक्ट है कि नहीं है? ये इट्स अप फॉर डिस्कशन. फॉर मी ये पाप है, इट्स चाइल्ड लेबर. तो एटलीस्ट वन थिंग आई मैनेज कि एवरी फिल्म मेकर हु साइंस अप विद CFSI has to give a declaration that he or she will not exceed that many hours, those many things, no school will be missed, all these things. So like that.
That's a wonderful, I think, decision that you took. But there's also a kissa related to Children Film Society when you took this idea concept of Taare Zameen Par to the society. The then chairman, Sai Paranjape, kind of rejected the idea. So could you talk about that experience?
Well, I don't know what happened in that boardroom of all the jurors. That also I said correct in my time. Okay, I said, what CFSI asked for? It asked for a 1-page synopsis. 1 से 1.25 पेज सिनॉप्सिस, उससे ज्यादा नहीं. साथ में वो एक ड्राफ्ट 1000 रुपए का, अभी तो 3000 हो गया होगा, आई थिंक इट इज, एंड वो देने का. तो वो कॉपीज जो है CFSI बनाता है. फिर एक बैठा हुआ है मैंगलोर में, दूसरा बैठा हुआ है असम में, तीसरा इधर बॉम्बे में, 2, ऐसे 8-10 लोगों को जो हु आर मेंट टू बी द कमिटी, उनको वो सिनॉप्सिस जाते हैं, थोक में जाते हैं. जब 50 सिनॉप्सिस आए 50 लोगों के, तो 50 जाएंगे. फिर आप या तो टिक करो या तो क्रॉस करो. तो योर फेट इज सील्ड विद अ सिनॉप्सिस, टिक और क्रॉस. आई थिंक दैट्स अनफेयर, नंबर 1. नंबर 2 चलो जिसका टिक हो गया उसका टिक हो गया, तो इट गोज टू स्टेज 2, स्टेज 3, एंड फाइनल स्टेज में वो पूरी कमिटी बैठती, फर्स्ट टाइम रूबरू होते हैं, और फिर वो बोलते हैं कि इसके क्या गुण है, उसके क्या दुर्गुण है, ये वो. तो उसमें अपना जो तभी हाई जंप नाम का कॉन्सेप्ट था, which till we shot it was called high jump, and at one point we called it for Hindi interpretation Taare Zameen Par. That's what I got from Gulzar Saab's line from his song, जब तारे जमी पर चलते हैं आकाश जमी हो जाता है. उस रात चांद नहीं जाता, वो चांद वहीं सो जाता है जब तारे जमी पर चलते हैं. एनीवे, तो वो टाइटल सब चेंज हो गया, पर वो पहले हाई जंप था बिकॉज वो तो कुरोसावा की कहानी है. अकीरा कुरोसावा एज अ चाइल्ड वाज अ लूजर, 5 साल का रोता हुआ बच्चा. ही वाज कॉल्ड कोनबेतो सांग, मतलब क्राई बेबी. उसका बड़ा भाई बड़ा अचीवर था, वो एकदम पप्पू था. तो उसका ऐसा होता था कि वो बात बात पे रोता था, बात बात पे बीमार होता था. एक दिन क्लासरूम में उसने जो चित्र बनाया, पेंटिंग बनाया, उसके नए आर्ट टीचर को इतना अच्छा लगा कि उसने ब्लैक बोर्ड पर डाल के उसको 5 स्टार्स दे. बाहर फील्ड था, प्ले फील्ड, उधर एक हाई जंप का पोल था. कुरोसावा के अपने वाक्य हैं, हिज ओन वर्ड्स, कि आई डोंट नो दैट डे आई वाज सो हैप्पी एंड माय स्पिरिट सोared so much that I ran and I jumped over that high jump bar again and again and over again. And I don't know whether I did it before or I don't know whether I did it after. So this was the inspiration for Taare Zameen Par. It was acceptance of a child. And this is Kurosawa's own story. Apne muh bola. His autobiography is called Nothing Like an Autobiography. That's the name of his autobiography. Nothing Like an Autobiography. Beautiful book. And great painter himself. So that was what I drew from. And I called it a high jump, and Deepa was meant to direct it actually. And it was a small synopsis. And finally it reached a level where they had to sit on discussion. And in that, Sahi Parans, we said, we don't know these people, they might misuse the fund. So, she had regular filmmakers like Saeed Mirza and Virender Saini and all these people who were giving good films, to CFSI. So I guess that's why apna patta kat gaya. But that was good because it got me 4 more years to improve on the narrative. It got me engaged with Saraswati Mandir and Tulips, these two schools for physically and mentally challenged children. And before I could make that film, Taare Zameen Par, I already made a small film called Milestone, which was celebrating differences. Would you like to see it? It's a 5-minute film.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now's the time.
Yeah, because it is in context. That's why.
My friend and I went for a walk. It was pre-decided that we not talk. Never did we feel the lack. It was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I was cast, so I am here. No other reason, I'm sure. Why else would I be living the role assigned to me? आजकल पांव जमी पर नहीं पड़ते मेरे. बोलो तुमने कभी देखा है मुझे उड़ते हुए? You sound a chime and expect my words to fall in rhyme. I gurgle instead. That's not enough for you. My trials and my errors bring dismay to you, and therefore to me too. I wonder hard how to push my heel into your shoe. Who tutored you to set milestones? For every single soul he made. Animal nor bird you spared. How could I escape your spade? Now I stand surrounded by your circle. There are no corners to hide. Where am I? You tell me. Inside or outside?
Listen, children.
Okay.
Say okay, children. Okay, say.
Okay.
Okay.
Say.
Start.
झूठा लूटा किसने उसको ऐसे लूटा कि फिर जुड़ ना पाया. झूठा लूटा किसने उसको ऐसे लूटा कि फिर जुड़ ना पाया. गिरता हुआ वो आसमा के आकर फिरा जमीन पर. हवा में फिर भी बादल लेके वो कहता रहा मगर के अल्लाह के बंदे हंसते. अल्लाह के बंदे थोडंसं ते इकडे असं करा मला दिसायला होणार. जरा मला दिसायला करा द्या.